Joining me on the line right now is my old pal, Keri Rodrigues, who, of course, is an at-large Democrat State Committee member. Keri, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Barry, great to be with you again.
Always glad to have you on the program. So, Comey, are you just absolutely beside yourself with what's happening, or were you one of the Democrats that were calling for Comey to go for costing Hillary Clinton the election back in November?
You know, Barry, even you have to be able to put aside partisanship, your love of Donald Trump, to really focus on what's best for the country. I mean, even Republicans are seeing what a disaster this president is, and that he makes, a lot of very rash decisions, shooting from the hip, and this is just another one. I mean, he caught everybody off guard. It's quite clear that he didn't like the fact that he couldn't control James Comey, and his administration is under investigation regarding its ties to Russia, and that's something that all of us, regardless of what party we belong to, need to start paying attention to.
Let me ask you this. Russia? Do you support the dismissal of Comey? Because just last week, Hillary Clinton told Christiane Amanpour that he cost her the election.
And that very well may be true. That is, I believe, a separate issue that we can talk about, because it was quite clear in his testimony where he presented that, it was some very bizarre decision-making in terms of his disclosure to the American public that she may or may not be under investigation back and forth. I mean, that was all very convoluted. What I am most concerned about is whether or not Russia has interfered with our democracy. And that is something that everybody needs to be concerned about. And if this guy was deep into an investigation and that he is doing an intense analysis around the campaign, what happened, whether or not there was Russian interference, and Donald Trump is having a temper tantrum about it and decides to fire the guy in the middle of an investigation, you don't smell a rat here?
No, I mean, look, Comey is just one part of that investigation. The FBI lives on. This is no Saturday night massacre. Nixon didn't fire anybody from the FBI anyway. Back then it was special prosecutor. No, this goes on. The investigation lives on. The Senate's got an investigation. The House has got an investigation. The FBI's got an investigation. So this doesn't go away. Although even members of your side of the aisle, even Maxine Waters admitted yesterday that there is absolutely no evidence of any kind of collusion. You've had that from another respected member of your side, Dianne Feinstein. Clapper said the same thing. Yates has said the same thing. So there's nobody out there that believes there's any kind of collusion out there. But the investigation should go on.
There is intense investigation happening right now, and that investigation, the conclusion of which has not occurred yet. And we have not had a discussion or disclosure of evidence.
All right, so why not let the FBI continue with its investigation? Let the Senate and the House continue.
So why fire the head of the FBI in the middle of the investigation? That is shady. That is one of the shadiest things I've ever heard of.
I think it's as open as you can be.
Investigation against you.
This is transparency.
Country first here.
This is transparency. Both sides. I mean, we had Schumer say that this guy, should be gone. That he had no confidence in him. Nancy Pelosi said he shouldn't be in the job.
The guy who is heading up the investigation against you, when we are dealing with something as serious as Russian interference in our democracy, in our election, something that we hold so dear, our number one principle that we hold dear to in this country. People have fought and died for it.
I'm going to start playing the violins in about 2 seconds here, Keri.
This is the center of our country.
So I get it.
Take a look objectively,
so you know what?
I mean, even you have to look at this objectively.
Investigate on. Onward ho with the investigations. I'm all with you. Let's get the investigations.
The head of the FBI.
But it doesn't have to be Jim Comey.
Whatsoever. I mean, this is a guy who Donald Trump was blowing kisses to in January because he was so happy with what he did to Hillary Clinton. And this is a guy who all of a sudden, out of the blue, without notifying Congress or without notifying anybody else at the FBI.
Which he doesn't have to.
The guy didn't even know this was coming. He was actually at a recruitment event for the FBI in California when this happened.
Right.
No idea that this was going on.
Right.
And suddenly this comes up, and immediately he has to be fired. What kind of activity was he involved with that required this kind of immediate action on behalf of Donald Trump?
So somehow or another, that do you believe that anything that was being investigated suddenly is wiped away? That because Comey's out of the office now, that any conclusions or any leads that were being followed up in this investigation suddenly disappear?
Barry, tell us, who is the next person to pick the next head of the FBI?
Well, that's going to have to be a confirmation. That's going to be confirmed by the Senate.
The guy who is under investigation is going to pick the next guy who's going to investigate him?
Only if it's approved by the Senate. The Senate has to approve the confirmation.
We need an independent prosecutor to investigate Donald Trump and what happened in our election. And you as a Republican, me as a Democrat, should come together and say, you know what? What is more important than anything else that we do, any other argument we have, is fighting for our democracy, the principles on which this country was built. And it's unconscionable that you and I can't sit across from each other and agree that that is the most important thing that needs to come out.
Well, I agree with you. We need to continue the investigation, but we've got Senate investigation, House investigation, we've got the FBI investigating, we've got, everybody but the Three Stooges investigating this thing. Rod Rosenstein is a person who was highly respected by both Democrats and Republicans. He got 96 votes at his confirmation. You guys held this confirmation up. Your side held it up until April 25th. Finally, he's the guy that comes in because Sessions recused himself. This falls on his lap. He does an evaluation, writes a letter saying this guy is toxic. Both Democrats and Republicans feel that Comey is toxic. We need to get rid of him. The public doesn't have confidence in the FBI anymore.
And last night on Twitter, Roger Stone, who is at the center of the Russian investigation, who has been mentioned time and again in terms of collusion with Russia during the course of this investigation, you know what? He posted on Twitter a picture of Donald Trump from The Apprentice. And when he was called by the press for a comment in terms of the firing of James Comey, he told people he wasn't going to comment, but he was enjoying a fine cigar because this is a great moment for him.
Well, I think it's a great moment, too, that Comey's gone. I think it's a great moment that Comey's gone because I think we need to have public confidence in the FBI. Look, you guys were pretty pissed back in October, on October 27th, when he came out and said, hey, guess what? I'm reopening this investigation.
Yeah, because that was incredibly
But weren't you guys equally as angry?
In light of the fact that there was no evidence to say that Hillary Clinton did anything wrong, and that has come out.
But that's not what he said in July. In July, he said there's a whole crap load of evidence, but no reasonable prosecutor is going to follow this. Now, that also hurt your candidate as well. It didn't help Trump, but it hurt your candidate as well.
That was the October surprise that sealed it for Hillary Clinton. No Democrat is going to say that James Comey is their hero. However, the idea that you are going to support Donald Trump, firing from the hip once again, the man is unstable. This is the guy who we have running our government right now and makes rash decisions, is not strategic, does not even talk it through with advisors, and does stupid stuff like this.
Well, he got letters from his attorney general and from the assistant attorney general, a guy, again, who was 96 votes in the Senate for confirmation, who's fairly well respected on both sides.
According to a political
so he did what he was supposed to do.
Politico report today, he has been stewing about James Comey for over a week.
Right.
And was actually
I think he's been stewing about Comey for more than that. He's been stewing about Comey for more than a week. As
Attorney General asking for him to be fired after it was well known that Donald Trump was gunning for him and wanted to fire him.
Kerry, Maxine Waters says there's no evidence of collusion. Come on, if Maxine Waters now sees there's no evidence of collusion, you got to see that too.
The FBI investigation is ongoing, and that evidence has not been released.